right, guys, we're back again for another fantasy fishing show here. The Bassmaster Open Pros Pick'em, but this week is the Bassmasters Classic. You know, it's the pinnacle. You could say a lot of different names, the Mecca, the pinnacle, whatever you want to call it. It is the biggest deal in bass fishing, and this week they are on Ray Roberts in North Texas. And guys, there's a lot of things changing every single hour at Ray Roberts right now. There's water coming up. They're getting an immense amount of rain. Weather is changing, so should your picks. So if everybody came in here thinking this was going to be some big ledge beatdown, it absolutely probably will not be with the water getting as high as it is. Will there be some guys catch them out there? Probably so, but that's why I've got these guys with me today. I've got a guy that's been there quite a bit with Todd Castledine. I got Matt Pangrac, and I've got, of course, Bradley Hallman. So guys, welcome into the Bassmaster Classic show. We're going to have a good time. Let's go ahead and jump right on into Group A, and let's go ahead and start with the guy who's kicking our butt, Matt Pangrac. Who do you got in Group A?
Man, I got to go with Patrick Walters. Today on BTO, we had Jeff Reynolds on the show, and Jeff Reynolds talked a lot about how this time of year on Ray Roberts, standing timber could play. Fish suspended around standing timber, forward-facing sonar. We've seen what Patrick Walters has done on Lake Fork in the past. He's probably one in the best of the field at it. We've also seen what he can do with brush piles when they fished on Santee Cooper. He's a versatile guy. He doesn't have poor finishes, only in his second classic. There's a lot of guys you could pick in Group A, but I'm going with Patrick Walters.
All right, Hallman, what you got, Group A?
Man, I was disappointed this guy's in Group A. I don't think it's fair. I complained about it. He's a Texan, and I'm sure that's why they've got him in there. But he's not the only Texan. And he's not even an Elite Series guy. He's actually never fished on the Elite Series, and yet they've got him in Group A. So I don't know how that comes about. But Cody Bird is extremely strong with water high flipping. It's his game. I've made many top tens and flipping tournaments before, and Cody's usually right there with us.
No, I like that pick a lot. My Group A pick, I don't know if what you would call him, but he did win a championship there. And Matt Herron, what was it, a PAA or
the Toyota Bass Classic.
The
back
Toyota
last year they had it.
So Matt Herron is comfortable in shallow water, rising water, likes to keep a jig in his hand, fishes for big ones. I'm actually shocked he's only owned at 2.5% after winning a big event there. I mean, don't get me wrong, that group is absolutely loaded with hammers, so I can understand that. But Matt Herron is definitely my pick for Group A. What you got, Todd?
Those are really good picks. I'm having a difficulty because I don't have my phone, but I'm gonna pick. I've never picked this guy ever, and I don't know why I've never picked this guy. I'll think on anything. I'm picking Seth Fider.
I love the Seth Fider pick. I mean, he obviously look back at what he did at Neely Henry with that rising water, and just is a really good fisherman. He's fishing about as good as he ever has. I mean, he can't ask for much better than that. Let's go Group B. Hallman, let's lead us off on that one.
This is going to be my tournament of flippers. I'm going with Scott Canterbury. He's made a lot of money with that rod in his hand.
Ooh, going Canterbury. All right. What about you, Pangrac? Who you got for Group B?
I have a page and a half of notes on why I picked this guy in Group B, but I'll truncate it down. I'm going with Steve Kennedy. Now, you have to remember the Bassmaster Classic moved to early in the year back in 2005. Between all of his tour wins, 4 of 5 Kennedy's wins are in May and June. You're talking post-spawn, and he loves changing conditions. I actually did a documentary on Steve Kennedy and Rob Newell, who knows a lot about this sport. This was his quote. He said, when conditions are changing and plans are going out the window, that's when Steve Kennedy is at his best. Now, I know in his classics, he's only averaged a 33rd place finish, but in 2017, he finished second on Conroe. That's another Texas fishery. He did that flipping. We've seen what he did in 2017 with the white swim jig and bushes on Dardanelle. This is his 10th classic. I think it's kind of a nostalgia pick, but I think Steve Kennedy could be a miss here, but I'm sticking with him because I think it could also pay off big time.
It's funny you say that. I actually went Steve Kennedy too, and mainly because of his Dardanelle win and that super high water. He likes to flip. And the one thing I fished against Steve for quite a bit of time on FLW. He'd fished both trails at the time. And the one thing about Steve is he was the guy that literally practiced for 5 hours in the tournament. He just wanted to kind of look at the lake, and that was all he really did. And he would launch his boat and go fish the conditions during the event. And there's not a better change up during the event kind of guy. And I think that's going to be a big change up during the event Because I think the first 2 days of their practice was almost irrelevant with as much water as they just got dumped on them the last 2 days. Todd, who do you got in Group B?
Well, obviously, we don't talk about this. Steve Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into whenever y'all want to hear my Ray Roberts deal about Lake Ray Roberts, y'all let me know. Whatever group y'all want to hear about, and I'll let you know why all of my picks I'm picking are not, they're semi flippers. I'm not picking straight up flippers, and there's a reason for that. So if whenever y'all want to know it, I'm going to let y'all in on the freaking Ray Roberts deal and about this time of the year and what might go on with this, because I've been there this time of the year. I've been like almost these exact conditions, and I saw what went down. So I have in a big team championship deal. So I kind of have an idea what I think will go down.
Well, we have 3 more picks, Todd. I want to know now.
Let's
see Group C, D, and E.
Group C. Todd Castledine, you're up first. Let's hear it.
John Cox.
Okay, I like that.
And like I said, if you see, I got some swim jig guys in here. I got some guys with some moving baits. The flipping deal is going to go down. I get it, right? And it might be the majority of it. The difference on Ray Roberts, from what I've seen when it comes up, there's a couple other bites that will go down. They are extremely hard to find. One is a frog bite. One is a swim jig bite. They are there, and they will produce bigger fish. The flipping bite on big trees is a big deal at Ray Roberts when it's level. Okay. And so I do listen, anything can happen. So I like the Patrick Walters pick because they do suspend in those big giant trees and stuff on normal deals. I don't know about now. When we were there this time and the water came up, it was a willow tree and a bush flipping deal. It was very, very hard to get bit on a frog and some of these other things. At the end of the day, on day 2, I ended up catching a giant on a frog. And then all of a sudden some stuff started clicking, and it was me and Russell, and we made a top 10 and started crushing them that way. The bite at Ray Roberts is you go forever without getting a bite, and then you'll get a couple bites, and they will get used to that flipping deal. But if you can figure them out on a swim jig or a frog, that is your other 40% chance of catching them. Like, everyone's going to catch them flipping, but you will be the outsider doing something a little bit different as this thing progresses. So like I said, I don't want to pick full on flippers. I want some guys that will flip, but will adjust, because when they adjust and they can do a little bit of both, you're going to see some guys like catch a giant bag when everyone else is, catching 13, 14, 15 pounds. So that's what I see going down. There's always deep fish on Ray Roberts. I'm telling you about Ray Roberts. It's the most phenomenal deep looking stuff you'll ever find. There's not enough fish in that lake to catch them deep, because there's so much good stuff out there, but there's not a lot of fish on this lake. Guys are not going to crush on fish. There's not a big population of fish. There's big ones. So I don't think it can withstand deep water fishing out there.
No doubt.
Especially with the water rising. I think a lot of things are working against it. So that's my Ray Roberts breakdown and why I'm picking who I'm picking.
All right, Matt, who you got? Group C.
C group. I mean, he basically just described how Kyle Welcher has risen to prominence on the Elite Series. A frog, a swim jig, flipping and changing up as conditions. I would love to see Steve Kennedy and Kyle Welcher in the same boat at the same time, because I think they would get along famously. I think there's a lot of similarities between them outside of them both being Alabama guys, but I think they kind of think the same, and I think he can catch them just like Todd said anyway.
All right, what do you got, Hallman, Group C?
I'm going with Billy Lowen, which also fits the exact group he's talking about. Lowen's gotten here with a swim jig in his hand and a flipping stick. So I like Bill Lowen.
Well, and that's the exact person I went with too, Bill Lowen. And I think the main reason I went with Bill is when you have a small population of fish, he's the guy that can go catch 6 fish off of one tree and have the patience to really break it down and catch them. And you look at the fact that he grew up on the Ohio River, has a swim jig in his hand, is a good flipper, won at Pickwick in a really flooded event there, got his first win, so he knows what it feels like. And I think you talk about momentum, you can't really go wrong with Bill Lowen in this particular situation. So I'm going to – what you got?
The John Cox pick, I forgot. I didn't think about this, guys, and you two guys should know about this. Is that not the hardest lake to run around in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's bad. Like it's one of the worst ones I've ever seen on running around. John Cox, I guarantee you, saw more water than anyone else out there. Guaranteed. With like his boat and like what he does, I guarantee he found more. He was able to get to more water, and it's not like availability. It's just that place is wild, man, running through all that stuff. So I'm just saying, there's some guys that got some advantage on how they got around.
So let's go and jump into Group D. I'll lead us off. I have a feeling I know who a couple guys are picking in this, but I'm going Todd Auten. He's a veteran. He's really good in when you're talking about high water situations. He's extremely gifted with a vibrating jig, which I think might actually play in this event. He's a good flipper. He's just a good change up. Let's go do this, go do that kind of guy. And I feel like he's due. Honestly, I do. So, Todd, who do you have in Group D?
Man, I don't know. I don't know why. I know why I picked him. I don't really think this is his deal, but I still picked him anyways, just because I picked Chris Jones. I just know how good of a fisherman he is. So yeah. I trust him on the fact that it's not too big of a stage for the guy. You know, the Oklahoma deal, high water, dirty water, throwing a spinner back. Just, I don't know. I think he'll kind of figure it out.
I like the Chris Jones pick a lot. I mean, you talk about growing up around Grand Lake, flipping willows, and having to fish all that shallow water as much as he's had to, fishing Kerr and some of those places. I think it's a really solid pick. What you got, Hallman? Group D.
I've got Chris Jones, just the same. I do think the stage is big for him, but I think the fact that there's not a better wheelhouse for him to be in than flooded willows and buck bushes, and that in itself will allow him to settle down. I mean, he's going to be able to catch them. It's his wheelhouse. So, Chris Jones.
I like it. What you got, Panger?
I got the same thing. I don't think he has any decisions to make in this classic.
Yeah, no.
Either. It's too easy.
You know, no, and that was kind of where I was leaning. And for anybody that's watching, if you don't look at social media, Brian New did have an injury to his wrist. I'm not going to say it's going to set him back or not set him back, but guys, like, we have to use these to catch bass. So will it slow him down some? Absolutely. No questions asked.
He would have been my pick.
Yeah. And I think this is what we talk about in this fantasy fishing stuff is you got to look at everything. You got to look at social medias. You got to look. And I think another one that should take some consideration is Brad Watley. I looked at his page yesterday and he had a giant that he posted and he grew up around that area and he's probably fished Ray Roberts quite a few times. So I think he's going to have a good event as well. So Group E, let's go ahead and let Pangrac lead off Group E. Let's hear who you got.
Man, I went with Jordan Wiggins, the guy who actually won the fish off in the team championship. He doesn't have a lot of stats, but having fishing the opens this year, I mean, the guy's last open finishes are 4th, 7th, 14th, 3rd, and 21st. He obviously can catch them. I have no idea if he's ever been there, what he thinks about timber, that style of fishing, but from a fishing family and knows how to catch bass, I think it's a good pick for Group E. What you got, Hallman?
I've got Keith Carson. I just covered him last week at the NPFL, but that guy just won the second NPFL of the year, just straight east of there on a Wright Patman in Northeast Texas, and it was flooded bushes, exact same thing he's up against here, and he'd never been there, so he's an easy pick for me in this group.
You know, it's funny. I was leaning Keith Carson until I saw one person, Justin Kerr. West Coast guy, absolutely straight up dominates out there in the West Coast, is very comfortable picking up a flipping stick and moving baits and adjusting. I mean, guys, they got to catch him out of some places that have almost no bass in them, and he still consistently brings in good bags. Came out to some of the opens and has done extremely well. I think he's going to have a very consistent classic. Maybe he doesn't win, but I think he's going to do pretty darn good in this tournament. Who you got, Todd?
This is such a weird fantasy deal. Y'all, I don't know if y'all know my phone. I don't have my phone, guys out there listening. I don't have my phone, so I can't look at percentages. So I have no idea what percentages are. They had to help just read out guys' names. I would love to see, and Matt could help me out on this. I would love to see my picks on how many of these guys have actually ever been to a classic. Because I feel like I'm picking 3 guys that have never even been to one. I think I'm picking Keith Carson because to me, this is a no-brainer on that. When I heard his name, I knew about him from the Open. Hallman, he fished against us. He won the which one? The Lake.
Yeah, that's right.
Like fishing shallow.
Yeah.
Then he goes up to the NPFL. So I knew he won, and I knew exactly what he was doing there. Fishing shallow, swim jigging, thunder, like throwing a chatterbait, doing all that stuff on willow trees, muddy, at Wright Patman. So this just looks right up his alley again. So this was almost the easiest pick.
That dude's apparently been connected to John Cox. Those two have been together forever. And I mean, like since school, like they went to school together in high school and fished together growing up. And I didn't even know this when John won an FLW event, tour event on the Red River. You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He went through that pipe. Yeah.
Keith won it on the Klingler side. They went down there together. Like they even put their money in together. Like it's weird, dude. And then they split money. And I mean, those guys are, he's a damn good fisherman.
And I'm serious. Like, I don't know what my percentages are on any of these guys. And I'll be honest with you. I'm looking at it and I'm not going to change anything, but there's a good chance I either like fall to like the worst place in fantasy fishing or like I'm leading after this because I wonder how many guys, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking at this going, guys probably aren't going to pick this, but I'm doing it solely based on my knowledge, not based on like history of not history of like, oh, this guy is a good elite fisherman. I'm just going to pick him because he's good. Like I'm really just going based on what I think, but man, it's kind of a sketchy fantasy picks, but.
So real quick, we're going to throw in a different little element to this, guys, and I'm going to throw it to you right now. Who do you think is out of your picks are going to actually win the Bassmasters Classic? Who's going to be the champion? You get one pick. So that's 4 people out of the entire field. Will one of our picks actually win the Classic? I really don't know. The one thing I'm going to say, though, and just to add a curveball, and we're going to go in a non-exclusive order, you can't pick somebody that's already been picked.
I want to go first.
What?
You can't pick somebody that's already gone first.
Me and Hallman, I think, have 3 of the same picks, if I remember right.
Well, that's just sorry about your bad luck there, Todd. But you can't pick the same person because then, hey, then if we only have 2 people picked out of the entire field, the percentages don't line up. So we have to have 4 different people picked to make it work. So, Pangrac, you're first. Who you got?
I'm going with Kennedy. Like I said, I have a whole page of notes, and I can have a page of notes on why he isn't going to win, a page of notes on why he is. But if there's a dude who can find some weird thing that's off the wall back up there and do multiple things, it's going to be Steve. And he's in his 10th Classic. I mean, there's no reason not to. I thought
we couldn't pick somebody that's already been picked.
No, you can't pick somebody that right now. So out of the 4, you can't pick somebody.
Everybody's pick.
Will we just admit that do you think all 4 of us were going to pick Steve Kennedy?
I was going Steve.
Possibly.
I was going Steve.
Were you going Steve, Brad?
Hallman, were you going Steve?
Okay. Hallman, who you got?
Got Billy Lowen, the turtle.
The turtle.
He's already got his win this year, and he's in line with that Steve Kennedy deal. Like the stage, he's been there many times. So this is his wheelhouse as well, and I could see him holding up that trophy.
Well, since I can't pick Steve Kennedy, and that's absolutely who I was going with, I'm going to go Matt Herron. Just because he's won a big tournament there, and he's a shallow water guy, so I think it'll be a good event for him. What you got, Todd? Who you got since you can't go to Steve Kennedy?
I'm just picking this guy because the one thing that's not too big for this guy of everyone is John Cox. Yeah. That guy will win every single club tournament to a classic. So I might as well just go with it. I mean, they're not on beds and they're not like.
I like that pick. You'll probably win. You picked 4th and you picked Cox, and he'll probably win it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that guy will win a random event. Like, not random, but like when he's on them, y'all will admit when he's on them, he'll win by 4, 5, 6 pounds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'll at least go with that guy.
All right.
Let me get your thoughts on this, Todd. This is a guy none of us mentioned, but that I think could be a sleeper who obviously has experience in championship events. And if there is an offshore bite that I think could ride for 3 days, do you not think Clint Davis could be a player in this?
So I know some guys that fish out there deep. Okay. And I know that there was a one tournament that Hallman was even in that it got one out there deep. It got one off one. There's like a couple spots. Like there might be less than 10 spots that you could actually.
And there's
do
some
really
like
good on.
pond dams and things like
Yeah,
that.
there's some slabs out there,
Yeah.
and we know of a team that did good on one slab. And they caught almost every single one of their fish off that. I just can tell you this place does not set up like I doubt you're going to like graph them up, but you're going to have to just fish these places. And I honestly think you have to know that they're there. Like you have to know that this is a spot that has over the years produced. It's just a place, like I said, that looks really phenomenal. There are road beds and house foundations and like rock. There's everything you want, but it's all kind of like you better know. And I just think it's going to be very difficult. I really do.
I think that place is Baja, Oklahoma. I've been saying it for a while now. We own all the way down to Dallas. It's no longer Texas. We're collecting taxes on them people. That place fishes like Oklahoma. Todd agrees.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisville was the same way. I mean, we were there. The water was low. It was late in the year, and it still was one on the damn bank. You know, I mean, it's just it fishes like Oklahoma.
We've had, and there's some locals that catch them, you know, but it's a one-day event out there deep. And the water wasn't high. Like it's usually whatever. What I'll say is we've won a championship out there. We've made quite a few top fives in tournaments. I bet you like 6 or 7. I only go there once a year. Every one of them is shallow. Every time we go there is shallow. And a lot of time, yes, it's in the springtime, but like even in the summer and the fall when I was there, it was shallow. Yeah. And so I think over 3 days, that's what, like, they don't have a lot of tournaments that go multi-day events. So, I mean, this is a big deal to go 2 to 3 days.
So one of our favorite parts of this show and some of the guys that watch this is trying to pick the tiebreaker weights. Tiebreaker weights have always been a lot of fun. So we are going to pick weights. I'm throwing Todd under the bus. You're going first because you didn't get to go first on the classic pick. So let's hear your weight. 3 days.
I don't want to go first on this one. This is the
Sorry.
Worst. Someone's going to have let me think about this. Someone's going to have 20 over 20. Man, I think that's going to be tough to do. 2017, 15. Yeah, 40, 50. 57.3. God,
right.
That seems high. Nah, 57.3.
All right, who you got, Hallman? Or what you got, Hallman?
I'm a lot higher than that. It probably shouldn't be, but it's a small field. Fish are going to be scattered out. It's not like you can sit on one spot in every cast, but I'm going to go 61.2.
I like it. What about you, Pangrac?
I got 59 too.
I'm running the highest of all. I ran 64.3. I think somebody's going to figure it out and catch one real big bag. It has some giant fish. If y'all have never fished Ray Roberts, it has some gigantic fish in that place.
The springtime, man, like it's going to take over 30 a lot of times. So, but that's 2 people in the spring.
It's going to be
amazing. It always amazes me how close we get on these.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be in that range. I mean, if you look at what we have, I think Todd was on the low side. I was in the high side. So who was in the middle? You had, I mean, it's going to be around that, 57.
59.
Yeah, it's going to be around that 60 mark. I mean, you're going to have about the average of 20 pounds a day, which is going to be an extremely great classic if those weights actually hold up to that point. So guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this fantasy fishing show. Guys, thank y'all for joining me. If y'all haven't followed Todd Castledine on YouTube, Bradley Hallman on YouTube, Matt Pangrac on YouTube, make sure y'all go check those guys out. I really appreciate them being here, and I will see y'all at the Bassmaster Classic. We're all going to be there, right? So Todd, you got to go. We got to shoot a bass angler therapy. So guys, all right, I appreciate y'all dropping in, guys. I'll see y'all down there.